And it's 41 days to the 2023 general election. Hello and thanks for joining us on Standpoint. I am Precious Amayo. Now, as preparation for the 2023 general election picks up pace, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, that's INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has said that the Commission's commitment to raising the bar of the standard set in the previous elections is in place. He charged resident electoral commissioners RECs to work towards addressing some recurring logistics issues in the conduct of elections and ensure that this year's election is different from the previous elections in terms of INEC's preparation and delivery. But how reliable can this statement be with the fact that many registered voters are yet to collect their permanent voter cards? We'll be having a conversation on this in just a moment, but let's take this report by our correspondent Midele Ajayi in Enugu on PVC collection process.
It is day 2 for the permanent voter card distribution from the local government to ward levels by the Independent National Electoral Commission. INEC has set aside 6th to 15th of January as date to bring PVC closer to the grassroots. In the Enugu South local government area, some residents were cited at their word, expecting INEC officials. They looked depressed and frustrated, alleging it was a deliberate action.
It means that they don't want people to get their voters' cards. They might do one thing or the other to the voters' cards so that people cannot make use of it.
Myself, I've gone to the court, where they call the court, for how many times? Spending money. And they say they are spending the PVCs for ward levels. Here I am now, but nobody's here.
Apara Square is where the Independence Layout Ward 11 holds, although INEC staff were reported to come late for the distribution, but the exercise went seamless.
Many people have collected their card. They came around, they came late, around 10 o'clock. So I'm sure that up to 200 people have so far collected their card, and more people are coming, and the exercise is seamless.
The people want the Commission to engage ad hoc officials to assist in the distribution of voter card exercise.
We have enough staff. I think they should involve the youth corpers for them to assist them because they really need more hands on this.
So government should step up and send delegates. At least people that will begin to go from ward to ward and make sure that this thing is distributed.
The 10 days exercise seems to have gotten more persons awake, wanting to collect their PVCs. They only need the push from the electoral umpire to dispatch more men and to ensure the allotted time are judicially expended. INEC commenced the PVC distribution on the 12th of December, expected to end on 22nd of January, being the 33 days to the general election. With less than 7 weeks to the election, INEC has reaffirmed its stand that no eligible voter will participate in the poll without PVC. Hence the massive voter registration and collection, mostly by the youth. Midele Ajayi, TVC. With less than 7 weeks to the general election, the Independent National Electoral Commission is calling on Nigerians to troop out en masse to pick up their permanent voter cards. The state resident electoral commissioner for Enugu disclosed that out of the 127,665 uncollected PVC for 2019 election, with 253,567 newly registered voters in last year's CVR exercise, a little above 20,000 have collected their voter cards in the state.
Have collected. Then if you check what we have within the 4 days in a week, we may have over 30,000 collected. When we deduct it with the 381,000 to 32,000, it will reduce it. So we hope that before end of the exercise, 22nd, I think these PVCs will be collected.
He assures the Commission's readiness to conduct credible election despite the spate of insecurity in the sub-region. Chukuma expressed confidence that the exercise will be peaceful owing to civil engagement. The Commission acts with stakeholders and security agencies.
And we have to conduct in a free, fair manner and transparent manner. It's the assurance of the National Chairman of the Commission. And also as a resident electoral commissioner, people in Enugu should not interfere. With God, we do it right.
A visit to an INEC PVC collection center paints a picture of challenges some eligible voters face while trying to pick up the PVCs.
I told the woman to give it to my card. He don't see the card. He not give me my card. He say he no see it again.
I don't have it to INEC.
Emeka Okoye, an INEC registrant, earlier complained of neglect by the commission, only to discover that the fault was his.
By the way, they treat people here, I don't like them. People, they waste the time. I waste my time today. Last 4 days, I waste my time. I live and work. Because of make think Nigeria better. My people say, if I tell people live hunger, they kill me. I don't lost. So I don't know why.
The commission promised to ensure all eligible voters are not denied access to their PVCs.
But this man that made some noise, I called him and he now told me that he had registered before. And some of them will not tell you the truth that they have registered before. Unless you push, they will not tell you that they have registered long time ago.
The commission urged residents to avail themselves for the proposed 10 days exercise designed for mass distribution of voter cards to the political world to enable the people have unfiltered access to their PVCs. The big elephant in the room is that there are over 300,000 unclaimed PVCs in Enugu State alone. INEC has maintained the course that no voter will participate in this election without a PVC. They are calling on people to ensure that they collect their PVC so that they will be allowed to participate in electing candidates of their choice in this 2023 general election. Bamidele Ajayi, TVC News, Enugu.
And joining me to talk about this is the Director of Programs, Yaga Africa, Cynthia Obamalu. Good to have you join us.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm sure you were listening perhaps to that report there. A mixed reaction from around the country on the process of PVC collection. I just want to get your reaction to this and then your assessment on how well you think that INEC is doing in this process.
Well, I think first is to commend the extension of collection at the ward level by 1 week. Initially the ward level PVC collection was supposed to be concluded on the 16th, but the Electoral Commission has extended it by 1 week before continuing at the local government level. So, that is the first step, and it creates more opportunities for voters to go to their wards to collect their permanent voters card. But your report indicates, there are several experiences in different locations. For some locations, you have people who go in and within 3-5 minutes, they collect their PVCs and they leave. While in some locations, you have people who spend hours just waiting to get their permanent voters card. And I think for me, there are three major challenges that we've observed so far, because Yaga Africa, we also have volunteers supporting the collection in Abuja and in Lagos. And some of our observations from other parts of the country are, like I mentioned, three main issues. First, we have the challenge of locations with high number of registered voters. So you have locations that are really populated. And what that means is there will be a lot of pressure when you have a large number of people coming and you have only few personnel addressing or attending to this number of people. So which is why you still have these queues in some locations. And I think these are issues that can be resolved with planning. When it comes to deployment, part of what should be considered for states, issues are not taken into consideration already, that you have more personnel or additional personnel, leverage on partners, civil society organizations in respective states to support with volunteers in those centers with high number of voters waiting to collect their PVCs. So that's one angle. And in line with that also is to provide security to help manage the crowd and to help protect the personnel and even the volunteers helping in collection of the PVCs. The second we have observed is issues around PVCs not printed. We've also gotten that report. I think someone also mentioned being on the queue for so long and then getting to your turn and you're informed that your PVC has not been printed, that there is that, or your PVC is not in that location. But the one not printed, I think, is also what INEC needs to look into. Why? Because the guideline is clear: no PVC, no vote. voters want to get their PVCs, and for voters who are validly on the register of voters, they have a. So for those complaints that have been received at different wards and LGAs, it's important those complaints are sent to the national headquarters, INEC headquarters, for the reprinting of those PVCs, and that individuals who have those complaints, that at the end of the day, that they will receive their PVCs before the end of the collection exercise. And I think the third part is the issues about multiple registration. Part of what we've seen in some locations that for some voters who are expecting to receive their PVCs may not be provided because they had registered more than once. And some of those instances, you have situations where people were supposed to either apply for a transfer or apply for replacement of lost or damaged voters card. But perhaps for lack of information or lack of adequate knowledge around the process, apply for rather engage in new registration rather than the application. Now, you know that INEC last year had indicated that they had deleted about 2.something million invalid voters from the register. Those were multiple registration, and the principle INEC works with, if there are multiple registration, the later registration is deleted. So the most recent is what is deleted, which is why you have individuals who believe they registered, but they are also told that their names are not on the register or they don't have their PVCs, because where they can get their PVCs would be in the previous location where they had registered, or they are left with only
let me put you on hold in just a moment.
Yes.
I want to just state that we also have legal practitioner Nebedum joining us from our Abuja studio. Good to have you join us. I will bring you into the conversation in just a moment, but I want to follow up on what Cynthia said. Cynthia, you mentioned something about which is quite revealing for me, which is the fact that some PVCs have not been printed. When you put that side by side with what the INEC chairman said about no one will be disenfranchised in this election, how would you then react to that? And what do you think is the reason for PVCs not being printed?
Well, I want to first hold the INEC chairman accountable to those words, because it's important he makes that statement, but follows the statement with action by ensuring that while he says no one will be disenfranchised who is originally entitled to a PVC, it also means that INEC does everything within its capacity to produce those PVCs before elections, and that these individuals, these voters who could not get their PVCs now, would have that. It's really frustrating for voters who went through the process of registration, through the stress. Some waited to get their PVCs only to be told they don't have it ready. It is only fair, and in fact, it's only justice for me that these voters have their PVCs produced and sent to their states, sent to them before the elections day. Even if it means making concessions for addressing those complaints received, because I know INEC has a deadline, 29th of January is the supposed deadline for the collection of PVCs. But what happens where there is a reprinting of PVCs beyond that time? I think it's also important INEC provides better information around that and follows its words with action. And when you ask where is the challenge, honestly, it's all around following the due process within the institution. I believe that there may have been a gap at the point of printing and delivering of the PVCs to the Electoral Commission, because there is a business process when it comes to registration of voters, compiling of the register and sending the register for the printing of the permanent voters card. And there's an SOP that's provided within the commission that guides PVC collection process. For me, there was a gap somewhere. Either someone failed to properly take account of PVCs received before sending to the states, because it's at the point of the delivery of the PVCs to INEC that I believe that is where there was a major issue, because the states don't have, the states are not in control of this. They work with what the Electoral Commission at national level sends to them, and which is why I believe that the INEC chairman has he's in the right position to ensure that he enforces within the institution that for all these complaints, they are adequately attended to. Remember that the right to vote is a constitutional right.
Absolutely.
And when voters have done what is required by law, they should not be disenfranchised for no cause of theirs.
And let me bring the lawyer in. Okay, Nebedum, I know you've listened to all that Cynthia has said, and then I'm sure you also listened to the report earlier. There was somebody all right, I understand that we do not have Okay Nebedum at the moment anymore, but Cynthia, let me stay with you, because some people, I listened to one particular respondent on that report saying, look, alleging deliberate sabotage by INEC officials, and perhaps maybe it's because of issues like this, when people will say, deliberately, someone is trying to sabotage the process. But a colleague of mine went to pick her PVC yesterday, and she was so excited because she said it was so fast. She went there, picked up PVC, just different experiences for different people.
Experiences. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, there are different experiences for different locations. And where we're having more complaints are locations with high number of registered voters. I, for one, I remember on last Saturday in the Abuja area, local councils, area councils, I was in 2 of them in Kwali and locations. People were coming in one after the other, and in 2-3 minutes they were done. So, but I come back to the Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC. There are locations like in Lugbe and in Kubwa where people are there as early as 6:30 a.m. to just get their PVC, and they are there till 1 p.m. yet to get their PVC. So what this is showing is that INEC needs to review its deployment at the state level. This is not just a national issue. It's not for the national to ready. At state level, resident electoral commissioners have the power to review their deployment and then provide for better manpower support or human resource support to ward centers where you have high demand for PVC collections. That's where it reduces the pressure and makes the process easy and easy to engage. There are locations where within 2-3 hours, the electoral commission officers there are waiting for people. No one is there to even collect their PVCs. So it means that we need we need the commissioner at the state level to be a bit more deliberate in
terms of, when you notice that more people are at a particular location with less staff, and you could redeploy people from other places where you don't have enough people to those places where you have enough people. Okay, let me bring in now. Okay, Nebedum.
Yes.
Okay, you've listened to. I'm sure you've been following the conversation generally on PVC collection. Let me also ask you about your assessment on how INEC has done in this process.
Well, all we can say is kudos to INEC. They've done so well, deployed their staff across the states, and the 2 layers of collection logistics, starting from the local government, and by this time they have moved to the registration centers and the polling unit. It is worth encouraging, it's worth commendations. All they can do, all that is expected of them at this moment, is to reassess their staff allocations or their HR support systems in order to determine those endemic areas where there are high demands and put in more staff there, and then deploy some others to places where there are none. Because I know, and I have information also directly, privately too, particularly in Enugu State, where some registration areas or ward centers, there are no staff, and people who come from the villages, ready with their chairs to sit down and queue a number of hours, waiting for support staff, waiting for INEC staff. And even some of those villagers themselves have the village heads providing support staff and support infrastructure, the furniture, the umbrella, or some of them use town halls, some use primary schools in order to ventilate and even put the distributing staff in a comfortable state in order to do their jobs. All I know again is that there are human factors. Most of our voters are not as enlightened as to what their rights are. Some of them are not, illiterate, but are not knowledgeable as to the concerns and responsibilities that they have prior to the collection point. What I mean by that is that some of them have fallen foul of double registration. Some of them, instead of making transfers or availing themselves to opportunities for corrections in their names when INEC for them to comfort. I know our people in Nigeria, hardly would they show face, hardly would they come up to go to, either accept the publication, as it were, or, make amendments or reposition their surname, middle name, first name. And, when some of all those clusters aggregated by the computer may tag them as double registration at some point, and some of all these things cause disenfranchisement. So those are human elements, and those are other factors that has to do with the digital nature of INEC register. All this will have to educate our people, but at this point now, there's no going back to registration or confronting alterations and correction of names. What we're doing at the moment is collection of the PVCs. No doubt those who have fallen foul will come to collect, and they may not see their PVCs to collect because of reasons aforementioned. But the point remains that those who should have their PVCs printed already should collect them and endeavor to get there right on time. We have this fire brigade approach when our people don't do things the time they should until it remains like 1 or 2 or 3 days to the end of collection. And then that is where we'll see surge. And they'll be putting pressure on INEC staff, support staff, and they're sometimes creating security situations. So,
just to jump in here, and if you can help me speak up, and I'm speaking to you, Kenebedum, if you can help me speak up a bit more as you provide answers to this next question, because some of the people who have spoken, not in very, very, very few cases, but some people have talked about extortion by INEC officials. How do you think that this should be addressed?
INEC itself should have a way of disciplining their staff when they violate some of the code of conduct guiding their operations. If there are instances of corruption, extortion, as the case may be, there should be a reportage. Some of those incidents should be reported. But I tell you that there is this connivance and there is this attitude of Nigerians that instead of calling it corruption or extortion, some of them see it as a way that I came there and I paid my way through, I spent less than an hour and I'm out. And they will call themselves in a way fast guys. So you may find it difficult to prove extortion against any staff, when oftentimes it is the citizenry themselves saying it that they don't want to waste time there queuing up. They have to cut corners. So it's a dicey situation as much as I can tell you for now. But in a situation where there is proof against the staff and anyone is forthcoming to lay evidence to that effect, there should be penalties and there should be consequences so that it will serve as a deterrent, and some of those excesses will be nipped in the bud.
Absolutely, we cannot also deny that. Of course, some of those who have gone to collect their PVCs are also complicit. Bring Cynthia in now. We've seen situations where, especially in the last, I don't know if you listened to that, was complaining about how the process was going, and then only to find out that he was at fault. Some people go there, complain about the process, but then realize that they are at fault, they haven't done what is needed. Actually, what is the process? What should people do? What is expected of someone who is going to collect their PVC?
Well, thank you. And I think the first thing is for every citizen, honestly, for this, because participation is more impactful when it is from an informed point of view. For voters, you can actually check on INEC's portal cvr.inecnigeria.org, or it asks for your name and your date of birth. You sign in. It provides your location, where your polling unit is, your ward, and LGA. That's a get your and where your ward is. INEC has also published the list of. You can also go on the INEC website for that. But what is, I think, for every vote, because what polling units are distributed across wards, what is required is that you first ask to confirm that you are in the right location, just so that you're not spending a lot of time. That is one. The second part is, if you know genuinely that you registered more than one, is a likelihood your PVC is not in the location you're hoping to get it. Do the right thing, and your data must have been cleaned out. Your later registration must have been cleaned out. Also,
Cynthia, I'm trying not to interrupt you because you're giving a very vital information, but we seem to be losing audio from you intermittently. I don't know what is going on. It might just be the network.
Okay.
So let me go to OK and see how we fix that, and then we'll come back and you give that information because it is quite important. But let me get back to OK Onebedum in our Abuja studio. 8 days extra. That's what INEC has now given for the collection of PVCs. Is it sufficient? How do you think that, in terms of the promise made by the INEC chairman that no one will be disenfranchised, that 8 days is sufficient to get everyone who is willing to collect their PVCs?
It's sufficient, and Oliver Twist will always ask for more. We will plead with INEC to increase hours, probably to start from 8 a.m. in the morning and to 6 p.m. The 8 days will be enough. I say so because more enlightenments are going to be taking place. I urge religious centers, religious leaders, village unions, village executives, town unions, and non-governmental organizations to up their game in educating people. Part of what should, and what I know would facilitate this collection process faster, is that one approaches the location for collection having good information. And I know for rural dwellers, there may not be access to internet for them to access the INEC portals in order to get them. But people who are knowledgeable enough should, download pictorials, audios and visuals, print them out so that people will have guidance. And if possible, for INEC, I don't know how possible that will be at this point, to make it possible that probably QR codes could be printed out by people directly from INEC portals, and once anyone gets to the right location and then scans the QR code, he is sure, first of all, that he is at the right place, and then secondly, that his PVC is printed and is on that location. It eases the stress of having to sit down for long only to get to your turn, and you find out that another information contrary to your expectation is given up to you. It breeds frustration. Such a person will be frustrated. So if there's a way, but I know INEC itself has in their portal, they have created a situation where you can log in your name, I think your birthday, and 3 information. And when you provide those 3 information, you access, if one has to screenshot, for people who have Android phones, they can screenshot and then print it out and take it to the centers. But for those who don't have those devices, those who are not digitally compliant, there should be a way of educating them through the village unions and town unions and the activities of the civil society groups, so that it will reduce the waiting hours. When it reduces the waiting hours, Yes, the vision is I have come to the right place and I will get my PVC handed down to me. That 8 days should be enough if the hours are increased and if digitally we also enhance the process through a QR code and QR scans.
Thank you so much. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation. We'll also be looking at some of these figures released by INEC and what exactly they mean as we draw closer to the 2023 election. Stay with us.
Get 1 hour of YouTube data for 50 Naira or 3 hours for 130 Naira on the MTN network. Simply dial *131 *8 *1# today.
It's not your regular show. It's an online interactive session where I will share my views on the everyday issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. I am passionate about our country. I choose to support any conversation geared towards building a better Nigeria. I am Babajide Kolade Otitoju. Join me every Saturday on TVC News YouTube channel as I discuss Nigeria and the world at large on the show Issues with Jide.
All right, you're still watching Standpoint. Thanks for staying with us. We have the Director of Programs, Yaga Africa, still with us, Cynthia Obamalu. And she joins us via Zoom. And we have in Abuja studio a legal practitioner, Oke Nebedum. I just want to quickly, before we move to the next conversation, Cynthia, in just maybe a minute, just wrap up that statement you were making earlier about what people should do when they get to INEC office.
So before you can actually confirm your status online on the INEC portal is cvr.inecnigeria.org. No space, INEC Nigeria, all small caps.org. You would go there, you're required to put in your name and your date of birth. It provides your registration status, so you can even confirm if you're on the register by following this process. And it can also identify your ward and polling unit. That way, you'd be going to the right location. INEC also provided some phone numbers that you can send a text with your name, your ward, and your LGA, and you receive a message telling you where to go to collect your PVC. If you go on the INEC Twitter page, I know one of its numbers, if I'm allowed to call out the numbers, is an SMS. You send a text and it replies you with your location on where to pick up the PVCs. Am I allowed to call out the number?
Yes, but I need to launch up. I will come back to you. Just give me a minute. I want us to take a look at this report by one of our correspondents, Joke Adisa, on INEC saying, look, there is no plan to postpone this election. We will talk about that and other facts and figures released by INEC after this report. Stay with us.
Section 10, subsection 6 of the newly enacted Electoral Act mandates INEC to present a clean register of would-be voters to political parties well ahead of any election.
So I present this to your party. Just take it easy now.
It is in fulfillment of this provision that INEC is meeting with representatives of political parties. Nigeria now has 93,469,008 registered voters. Lagos State takes the lead with 7,060,195, and it is followed by Kano with 5,921,370, while Kaduna is just behind with
49,054,162, or 52.5% are male, while 44,414,846, representing 47.5%, are female.
In the last 48 hours, INEC has been at the center of discussions regarding its fears that rising insecurity may compel a shift in the 2023 general election, which is about 6 weeks away. This has generated widespread reactions, even from the government of the day, which insists nothing will jeopardize the elections. The chairman comes out to clarify INEC's position, expressing its resolve to forge ahead with the elections. He says anything contrary is a personal opinion.
The repeated assurance by the security agencies for the adequate protection of personnel, materials, and processes reinforces our determination to proceed. The 2023 general election will hold as scheduled.
The political parties applaud the efforts of the Commission so far and promise their continued support towards achieving set goals. They promise to scrutinize the INEC document as they affirm their support for the elections to hold as scheduled.
Political parties are resolved to ensure that we cooperate with the Commission to ensure that the Commission have a smooth and successful election.
We've been campaigning for the past almost 1 year now, and we have a set target of election coming on the 25th of February for the first one, second one on the 11th of March. So it's a welcome development, and we are excited that INEC keeps the timetables.
The situation in Anambra was tense, but the Commission went ahead with the cooperation of other political parties and then held the election. The atmosphere now is more peaceful than what we had during the Anambra governorship election. So there's no reason whatsoever why the election will not hold.
The coast is getting clearer with 11 out of the 14 scheduled activities of INEC for the 2023 elections now executed. Nigeria now has over 93 million registered voters as attention shifts to PVC collection, which is slated to end on the 22nd of this month. Joke Edsa, TVC News, Abuja.
All right, let me take the conversation to Okedebedum in Abuja studio. So INEC is now having to reassure Nigerians that this election will not be postponed. It will not be rescheduled for any reason, after a statement made by a representative of the INEC chairman at an event that if security challenges are not handled, they might be postponed or outrightly cancelled. How do you react?
I presume that if he feels the pulse of Nigerians, such statements of fear or of pessimism may not be needed at this moment. All Nigerians want to hear now is positive vibes, and let the tempo increase. Let us rise and speak peace to our country. Let us be positively minded. The timelines for INEC, out of which more than 50% of the timelines has been achieved by 22nd of January, we would have been done and dusted with collection of the PVC, only looking towards the presidential elections. If we, out of the milestones that are more than 11 or thereabout, if we have achieved and 50% of them, then we shouldn't be talking about election might be cancelled. Insecurity has been with us and has even been worse than it is being predicted. There are pockets of reportage here and there, but that does not indicate that there would be, even though one would have expected that it is a collective responsibility that our security agencies know and are aware that elections are going to be held. They should be able to be proactive, not always being responsive. Let them be proactive in the sense that simulate these situations and then use data of the activities of these hoodlums and activities of those terrorists to some of those hotspots, to predict some of those locations, and then make deployments of resources with intelligence gathering. And they would nip these incidents on the board, because it is not rocket science to guard Nigerians. These are just few elements putting fears in the minds or terrorizing the country, which I believe strongly Nigerians are very peace-loving people. Nigerians are very enthusiastic to participate in the 2023 elections, and they want to do so at the cost of their daily activities. We have this tradition that on election days, businesses are shut down. In fact, almost the whole country is shut down. We are still smattering from the normal, brick and mortar to digital conducting elections. One day when we'll be voting from the comfort of our homes through devices we hold in our hands, or through USSD or different platforms.
Absolutely. Just making the election process
first of all, also the cost.
simpler.
What it costs Nigeria
But
to,
let me bring in Cynthia here, because Cynthia, you will speak to two things, because I know earlier you wanted to call out some numbers. I'll let you do that now. And then, is it easy to just say, look, these issues are there, but we cannot postpone the elections when these issues have not been resolved? I remember I spoke with your director of, is it publicity? I think it was Paul James, who had said, look, the issues are there. In some states, as we speak, it's even difficult for some people to deploy, or some organizations to deploy election observers to those areas, and that these issues are there and should be dealt with.
Yes, the issues are there. But what is important is the Electoral Commission has assured Nigerians that they will be proceeding with the elections. And while INEC, by the Electoral Act, has the power to postpone elections, I think it's important. The Act is clear. It says it must be cogent and verifiable. The reasons for postponement must be cogent and verifiable. But the Act also empowers INEC to provide for voting for voters who have been displaced by any reason, and which is why the Electoral Commission has a framework for voting for internally displaced persons. So INEC already has done its assessment, and there is a fair sense on locations where voting may not happen in those communities because the people have been displaced to other communities. And so I know some states will have things like super council, people would vote. So INEC would move the polling units to where the people are. And I know one of the things that we as is not just a commission assuring us, but we also want to hear from the security agencies that they are doing all that is necessary to deploy efficiently to secure lives and properties for the elections. I think that level of assurance from the security is what we also need, not just from INEC, because at the end, election security is beyond the Electoral Commission. But what is important is that the Electoral Commission needs our support as a people. And like it has been said, the fight against insecurity is a collective effort. And for some communities where we're having incidents of unknown gunmen and what have you, we as a people, we also need to start making those reports to identify people causing chaos in those communities. I think it's also important we all become part of the fight against insecurity. But most importantly, it's not just a statement by INEC. We need the security agencies to also put the things they need to put properly in place and build confidence in the people and in the Electoral Commission that these elections will be conducted in a peaceful and safe environment for voters, for the electoral officers, and for the elections materials. So that for me is what is important. I do not believe in postponement. Nigerians are waiting for these elections. Nigerians believe that we deserve an election, and I believe that a lot of people are hoping that we would have a credible process. So we would provide the support that the Electoral Commission needs at this point in time. And as citizens, we should also know that the officials of INEC are members of our own families. So we also need to protect and secure INEC officials in our communities They are people's family members and people's loved ones too. And they are performing national service in a very difficult terrain with very minimal welfare support and package. So we also need to accord them the support and respect that they require to do their work in our communities. So no to postponement, and we're looking forward to a peaceful conduct. And for the numbers, actually, it's an SMS service. The flyers is on the INEC Twitter. One of the numbers is 0906 283 0860. 0906 283 0860. That you just send your name and your state, your LGA and your ward as a text message. You get a reply providing you details on where to collect your PVC. The other number is
right. So I think that Cynthia's network is erratic there, but I would ask her. We would definitely get that number for her when she returns. But let me get to Nebudum. Cynthia made a very key statement about the fact that look, sometimes the credibility would challenge the credit is biased or not in election with every election. How important is it? Because there are people right now who, if their candidate do not win, then automatically that election wasn't free and fair. How important is it that politicians make the right statement at this moment?
Oh yes, we have some parts of our electoral laws that has never been tried in the course of law, and that is part of the conduct you just mentioned. A situation where the leaders or politicians, in their own rights, having their own followers who do not call out their followers and guide them with the proper conduct and proper use of the right words, as against incitement, insults, disparaging statements, or even bandying about certain outrightly wrong information in order to tarnish the image of the opponents. INEC is yet to activate the law in that direction. And I believe it is a collaborative effort, because assuming that we understand that the law has been passed and there is a violation of that law, it is a law regarding activities during the conduct of an election. INEC may not have the prosecutorial powers. It may not even attempt to usurp the powers of the police, which is exclusive to them, which is like a monopoly to handle prosecution. In fact, starting from investigation of crime in this country and in other Commonwealth jurisdictions. So there needs to be collaborative efforts, both in terms of prosecution of electoral law offenders regarding false statements, regarding incitements, regarding outrightly false information in order to tarnish people's image. I know that the law on libel is out there, but oftentimes to let us dovetail it directly and positive within the conduct of electioneering campaigns so that people will take lessons. There should be deterrence, and if the law is tried with one or two offenders, I believe that it's going to strengthen our conduct during electioneering campaigns, and people will stop maligning other candidates on account of trying to raise votes and in a way of campaigning. No, that is not going to be, and we need to be making progress. And having said that, I also want to mention the fact that despite the fact that there are
all right, let me put you on hold, but understand that. Apologies for that, for interrupting. I know you were making a very key point, but let me bring Cynthia in. I have very few minutes left. I wouldn't want us to end this program without people getting that information. I think it's very important, as we now have just about 8 days for people to collect their PVCs. Cynthia, please go ahead.
Yes, okay. So I was calling the second number. The second number is 0906 283 0861. 0906-283-0861. You just send an SMS to this number, your state and ward, and you would be informed where your collection center is, just so you're not wasting time going to the wrong location to get your PVC.
So you're sending your name and local government and ward to that number, so that, you know, especially for people
who... you're just sending your state, the name of your state. So like, for instance, you send, if you're in Abuja, you'd send Federal Capital Territory. And if you're in our local government is Abuja Municipal Area Council, you send AMAC. So you're sending your state and your local government area to that number. If you have your ward, if you know the name of your ward, you can send the name of your ward. Most times the name of your wards are very common names. So you could send the name of your ward also, state LGA ward, to that number.
All right, thank you. Because so it is SMS and not call. So people that send number, don't call it, especially for do not have access to any way for you to get information about where your PVC is. And then also talk to us, because what should people take along? Because some people say, look, I don't have my slip anymore, or I didn't think that I needed my slip. What should you take with you when you're going to collect your PVC?
While you're required to go with your slip, the other thing is there's no running away from this, because you can go on the INEC portal, the cvr.inecnigeria.org. It shows you your details, so you can take a screenshot of that detail and show them. If for those who have lost their slip, I know that's what was happening, because they need your VIN, your voter identification number. Or if you took a picture of your slip before it got lost, you can go with a picture. They just need that information that has your name, your VIN, and your location of registration. So which is why if you don't have your slip, you can go on the portal to get your detail.
All right. I'm sorry, that's where we'll leave it. I wanted to hear from Mr. before we leave, but we do not have enough time. I really want us to look at this figure, so I'm hoping we can have you or anyone from Yaga Africa again next week, because I know this is what you do. You do a lot of research in that area. We want to break down these figures for people to understand what it actually means and not speculate. Thank you so much for talking to us. Director of Programs, Yaga Africa, Cynthia Bamalu, also legal practitioner, Okay Unebodum. Thank you both for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you can catch a repeat of the program tonight at 11 p.m. You can also watch 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. I am Precious Amayo. Thanks for watching.
Story than the scrimmage line. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles